I don't know if you would call yourself this, but my experience of you is you have become just basically a spiritual teacher. I'm not
Mm,
sure you would ever use that word, but that's what it feels like to me, is like retired cop turned spiritual teacher. And I have a lot of curiosity about your journey. So what I'd love to do is just focus on you and your hero's journey of awakening and what it's been like for you to open your heart into this infinite realm of love in everything.
mm.
I
That just gives me chills.
was
Um,
watching your face light up. That was amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
I'd say,
yeah.
what's
Thank you.
happening for you?
I'd love to talk about that. I think it's
Okay.
so important and it's so universal. Although my experience is unique to me,
Yeah.
that sort of template of encountering the dark side of human existence and trying to find a way to cope with that, and not just cope with it, but to turn it into the richest ground for awakening. That's a universal
Yes.
drive, a universal experience.
Yeah.
Um, but it definitely, for me, I entered through the gate of suffering
Hmm.
for sure.
Absolutely. Me too. Infinite
That's a great
suffering.
gate. You know,
I
it,
know.
it welcomes
It'll,
everyone.
it sure
No one's turned
does.
away.
I know. Those doors are always
um,
open.
yeah. So I was. It's not that I wasn't ever a spiritual person
Hmm.
or an artistic person or a weirdo. I've always been that. So in some ways, entering the police life was a little bit out of character for me. Although
Ah,
my dad was a cop and I grew up with him as my hero figure.
okay.
So it's something it was always in my mind, but I didn't know that I would pursue that.
Mm.
Um, but I did, and it was great. It was super, super wonderful, really necessary for me to develop as a whole human being. I think I was kind of not hard enough,
Hard
not
or heart?
hard.
Hard. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
soft
Hmm.
and I was super flexible and super go with the flow. And I didn't have a lot of personal power.
Mm.
Um, and I think initially that was one of the biggest challenges is trying to wield power as someone who wasn't familiar with it. And that took a lot of learning, but I had a lot of help.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think initially that job just lit me up. I loved it. It was super interesting, super fascinating to be on the spot with people that are having their worst moments when the blood and smoke is still in the air. And you're not just there as a witness, right? You're there as a primary actor. You're
Right.
trying to establish some control over the situation, mitigate the damage that's being done or has been done, treat the victims, and apprehend the wrongdoers. It's super rich ground. It's heroic ground.
It
There's no
is.
way around it. And for a long time, I was just really happy at it.
Hmm.
But that life does come with a cost, a psychic and emotional cost.
I
And
bet.
over the years, those costs mounted. And I did not have a good way of coping with all of the negative stuff that I was taking on board.
Hmm.
I thought I had found a pretty good coping mechanism in alcohol.
Oh, yeah. That's a good friend.
Yeah,
I mean, it does take the edge off, but
it does. And it was
yeah.
so reliable,
Right.
so helpful to me initially. It really did allow me to hold some of that darkness and relate to it in a way that I didn't think was terrible.
Hmm.
It sort of gave me access to a place of more capacity and more openness to that darkness. And it was totally socially acceptable, right?
Exactly.
Every
Yes. That's just what
everyone
you do.
agreed,
Yeah.
especially cops,
Uh-huh.
and especially that particular flavor of hard bitten, hard charging cop
Yeah.
that also drinks hard. So
Exactly.
it was all
It all
part of the package.
fits.
Yeah, it totally
Yeah.
fit.